Welcome back, my dear friends, to Ready for Horror Night. I'm Lizzie Bishop, and tonight I want you to lean in closer, because what I'm about to share is not some made-up tale from a dusty book or a Netflix script. This happened to a family, a real family just like yours, on what was supposed to be their very first big vacation together. It started with laughter, lake views, and the joy of being with loved ones. But it ended in fear, sleepless nights, and a story that none of them will ever forget. They thought they were renting a home by the water. What they got was something far darker. It all began with the Torres family. They weren't travelers by nature. In fact, most of them were homebodies, preferring the safety of routine and the comfort of their familiar surroundings. But one summer, Aunt Diane decided that enough was enough. She wanted to create new memories, the kind that stick to you, the kind you can look back on decades later. So she proposed a trip, not across the world, not even across the country, but to one of Michigan's Great Lakes. And somehow, against all odds, the entire family agreed. Now let me paint the scene for you. 18 of them packed their bags, piling into vans and cars, and set off for what they believed would be an unforgettable summer vacation. Samantha Torres, or Sam, was one of the younger cousins. She wasn't exactly the type to get overly excited about these things, but she was ready for something different. Alongside her were her cousins, Mariah, Nikki, and Elena. Together they would face something they could never have imagined. The Airbnb they booked looked like a miracle on the website, spacious enough to hold their massive family, sitting right on the sandy beach with a view of the lake that stretched endlessly toward the horizon. The waves looked like an ocean, crashing against the shore in a rhythm that lulled them into relaxation the moment they arrived. When they walked through the main house, it was everything they had hoped for, modern, clean, cozy, in all the right ways. But then came the catch. With so many people, some had to be placed in the secondary building, a detached two-story garage behind the main house. And guess who got stuck there? Yes, Sam, Mariah, Nikki, and Elena. At first they laughed it off. The garage wasn't terrible. Until they stepped inside. It smelled like mold and neglect, like no one had really bothered with it in years. The carpeted bathroom reeked, the bed linens were stained, and the flimsy latch on the door barely held the frame. Clearly, the cleaning crew had focused their energy on the main home and ignored this sad, forgotten structure. Still, the cousins figured they could make do. After all, it was just for sleeping. The real fun was outside, hot tubs bubbling, barbecues grilling, and the sparkling lake stretching out in front of them. That first day was pure joy. The kids played in the sand. The adults poured wine and laughed around the Austin patio. The cousins, despite grumbling about their lodging, spent most of their time on the beach, soaking in the summer air. But when night fell, and they returned to the garage for real, their enthusiasm dimmed. The sheets were just too dirty to sleep on. "There's no way I'm laying on this," Mariah complained, pulling at the stained fabric. So Sam came up with a solution. They'd wash everything before bed. The little laundry machines in the garage weren't built for bulk loads, so they had to do one set at a time. Sam volunteered to run the cycles. Downstairs, the humming of the washer echoed against the thin garage walls as she swapped out linens, carrying the fresh ones upstairs for her cousins. They teased her about being the responsible one, but she didn't mind. She wanted them all to be comfortable. By the time the last set finished, it was after 2 a.m. Exhausted, they remade the beds and collapsed into them, leaving one small lamp glowing in the corner. Nikki insisted. She didn't want the room in complete darkness. Sam, ever the light sleeper, lay awake scrolling on her phone, half listening to her cousin's steady breathing. That's when she heard it, a loud, thunderous crash against the garage door below. It sounded like someone had thrown their whole weight against it. She shot upright, her pulse hammering in her throat, but when she looked around, the others didn't stir. She told herself it must have been wind, though the sound was too heavy for that. She tried to lay back down, and then it happened again. The same deafening boom, rattling the thin walls, shaking the frame of the building. This time the vibration traveled up through the floor. Sam was wide awake now, heart pounding. She wanted to wake the others, but some part of her held back. Maybe it really was nothing. But then came the third bang, louder, closer, violent enough that Mariah bolted upright in bed. Nikki sat up, eyes wide. Elena whispered, "What was that?" Their voices trembled, because they all knew no wind could do that. Sam finally admitted, "This is the third time I've heard it." Nikki's hand shook as she texted her mom, Aunt Diane, in the main house. It was after 4 in the morning when Diane finally responded. Moments later, they heard footsteps, real footsteps, outside the garage. Their uncle banged on the door and shouted for them to come out. When they opened it, they saw him flanked by their father and older cousins, all grim-faced, all holding makeshift weapons. That's when Sam realized this was no joke. Her uncle explained in a hushed voice what he had seen. As he came around the garage, there was a man standing behind it, not hiding, not moving, but standing still, almost like he wanted to be found. When the uncle called out, the man didn't flinch. He just stared, and then, as if the night itself swallowed him, he vanished. No sound of footsteps, no crunch of leaves, just gone. The family searched the area, but found nothing. What they did find, however, chilled them more than the silence. Inside the garage, lying on the floor near the door, was a playing card, a joker. Not the colorful, silly kind you'd see in a deck, but one twisted, demonic-looking, like the face had been smeared in ink. Later, another joker turned up in the main house. 2 cards, 2 warnings, 2 taunts. Everyone fell into uneasy whispers. Jokers symbolized mockery, tricksters. And then someone pointed out the timing. The crashes had started around 3 in the morning, the devil's hour, as if the night itself was laughing at them. That was enough for the cousins. None of them wanted to stay in the garage another night. They dragged their blankets and pillows into the main house and squeezed wherever they could, on couches, on the floor, anywhere but that cursed garage. The second night should have been safer, surrounded by family. But safety is often an illusion. Around 4 a.m., Sam's mother, who had given up her bed and was sleeping on the living room couch, woke to the sound of footsteps on the porch. Slow, deliberate steps. She didn't dare open her eyes at first. Then she heard it, the basement door rattling. Someone was trying the lock, a lock that was weak, flimsy, barely more than a latch. And inside that basement were her sons, Sam's brothers, and several of the male cousins still asleep. The door shook violently, as though someone was testing how much force it would take to break in. Heart racing, Sam's mom rushed to the basement entrance, but by the time she got there, no one was outside. The boys were still asleep. No intruder, no footprints, just silence, and that gnawing sense of being watched. That was the final straw. By morning, the decision was made. They packed their things and left a day early, abandoning the lake house, abandoning the trip they had so looked forward to. On the ride home, the family tried to make sense of it. Some thought it was a local neighbor angry about the constant Airbnb guests. Others leaned toward the paranormal, because here's the thing. When her uncle spotted that man, he didn't run. He didn't even flinch. Normal people don't act that way. And when he vanished without a trace, leaving no footprints, No broken branches, no sound at all. Well, that felt like something beyond human. Theories swirled. Sam's mom later pointed out that when Sam was running laundry back and forth that first night, it lined up suspiciously well with the banging on the garage. What if someone had been watching her? What if they thought she was alone? The idea that eyes had been on her while she went up and down those stairs sent shivers down the whole family's spine. The Airbnb host promised to review the security footage from a camera mounted above the garage door, but the family never heard back. Not once. No call, no email, nothing. And that silence raised even more questions. Did the host know who it was? Was it someone local? Was it something that couldn't be explained at all? When the Torres cousins first arrived, they remembered passing a woman on the neighboring property. She had just stood there, staring. No smile, no greeting. Just cold, unfriendly eyes watching them as they walked by. Maybe she was a clue. Maybe she was nothing. But when you put all the pieces together, the man behind the garage, the joker cards, the attempts to get inside the house, it feels less like a coincidence and more like a warning. The Torres family never returned to that lake house, and though they went on to take other vacations in the years that followed, that one remained burned into their memories. Not for the view, not for the beach, but for the terror that stalked them through the night. And so, my dear friends, I leave you with this thought. Sometimes the danger isn't in the remote wilderness or the deep forest. Sometimes it's waiting behind a thin garage wall, watching you through the cracks, mocking you with a smile you'll never forget. So tell me, would you dare spend a night in that garage by the lake? Or would you pack up like the Torres family did and never look back? If you enjoyed tonight's story, don't forget to subscribe to Ready for Horror Night. Until next time, I'm Lizzie Bishop, wishing you sweet dreams, if you can.